know that some in our audience know the finer points of hockey.
The Chris Johnston Show.
We are your friends.
The biggest stories, bringing you inside the game.
What did you hear?
The Chris Johnston Show.
What is going on?
Here's Chris with your host, Julian McKenzie.
Part of the game.
Another turn in the Kyle Beach Chicago Blackhawks saga. We're going to spend a considerable amount of time on this Thursday edition of the CJ Show talking about it. I'm sure a lot of people in the hockey world have seen the video, have seen the back and forth between Rocky Wirtz, one of the owners for the Chicago Blackhawks, and Mark Lazarus of The Athletic, also Phil Thompson of the Chicago Tribune. Essentially, the finer details are this. The Chicago Blackhawks held a town hall meeting, basically just to field questions from, media personnel were there, obviously. And Mark asked a question about the team with regards to Kyle Beach and how they're going to handle things going forward. And there was a very big pushback between those two. Phil Thompson of the Chicago Tribune tried to follow back with a question of his own. Even more pushback after that. The big quote that obviously stems from the video: we're not going to talk about Kyle Beach. We're not going to talk about 2010. We're moving on. CJ, what were your thoughts when you saw the back and forth between Rocky Wirtz and Chicago media and just pretty much everything else that has been surrounding this incident?
Well, I'm stunned that would be the response. I mean, let's, for the purposes of anyone maybe who hasn't looked into this or knows everything about it, this was a town hall where the reporters were invited. So it wasn't a case where those two gentlemen were somewhere they shouldn't be. They didn't hijack an event. They were in a place where they were invited by the team. I mean, I can't believe those questions or those types of questions weren't anticipated ahead of time. And in light of that, it boggles the mind that would be the response. I mean, any goodwill that we might say, or any positive steps that the Blackhawks have taken, since this whole story broke, obviously they reached a settlement with Kyle Beach. Stan Bowman lost his job. Joe Quenneville, Florida, lost his job. I mean, there was some fallout, I guess, from this, what happened in 2010. It all goes away the minute you're saying we've moved on. Just because you might have paid some money or whatever, just because there's no active lawsuit as it pertains to Kyle Beach doesn't mean that the public's moved on. It's certainly, I don't know how this isn't a question in everything the Blackhawks have. I mean, how do their current draft picks feel? The parents of those young players, what has the organization done to ensure that something like this couldn't be repeated? I mean, I think these are all pretty pertinent questions, pretty obvious questions. And I don't say that as a slight at our colleagues in Chicago asking those questions. But I mean, the fact that was a response, it's hard to put your mind around. You said everyone's seen this video. I can tell you, Julian, making my calls today just around the league on all issues, this is something everyone in the NHL world's talking about. I'm in Las Vegas right now. The All-Star weekend's about to get up and running. I mean, to some degree, this is at the forefront of that. Gary Bettman's going to speak on Friday to reporters here in Vegas. And so, I'm sure that will be a major talking point then. And so, yeah, it's a big story. It's an unforced error. It's just there's no excuse for it. And I know Rocky Wirtz did put out an apology through the team on Thursday night, but that's nowhere near good enough. When you see the video, when you see how indignant, how strongly he was. I mean, there's other people on the stage, right? His son, Danny, who essentially runs the Blackhawks day to day right now. Rocky Wirtz isn't as involved anymore at this stage of his career. I mean, he wanted to step in and then Rocky stopped him. It's these sort of changes in an organization have to go top down, I think. I mean, obviously sometimes ground up works, but I think you need to have a change culture. You need to have the people at the top buy in. You need to empower those below them to address whatever's going on. I'm sure that's what's going to come out of this at some point. I would expect Danny Wirtz will, formulate a response to those questions, but there was no reason for his father to react the way he did on Thursday.
Absolutely. I know from my vantage point in talking to people about this, whether it's reporters at my level or just fans of this, a lot of reactions have varied from disgust to basically questions about what the league is going to do with Rocky Wirtz, or should Rocky Wirtz step down from his position with the Blackhawks. I'm wondering, because you've also talked to people in league circles as well, what have they been saying about it? How have they been reacting to it? Obviously, I'm sure it's it's not good. It's not good reaction for the Blackhawks and for the league as well. But what have they been saying? What are they calling for? What are you hearing?
Well, what I can tell you is, as of Thursday afternoon, when we're recording this, the feeling is he's not going to step down from his position as the chairman of the Blackhawks. I think that the thinking there, and I'm just repeating what I've been told, as opposed to I'm not saying I'm advocating his point, is that because he's sort of handed over control of the team to his son Danny, he's not really that involved. That there's almost nothing to step down from. Whether or not the NHL has any further repercussions, that's an open question. I think that's something we probably won't learn until Gary Bettman addresses the issue publicly on Friday. But remember, the Blackhawks were fined $2 million, after the Block and Jenner report was completed. That same report absolved Rocky Wirtz of having any knowledge at the time of what was going on with Brad Aldrich, the video coach, and Kyle Beach, and sort of the cover up, if you want, or the lack of action that followed it from the organization. But in this case, perhaps a fine or something else could be coming from the NHL. I think some of it, quite frankly, will be tied to how long the story persists. Who is calling for what? I saw Sheldon Kennedy, for example, had a pretty strong tweet about what happened here and how this is what paralyzes these organizations. Someone, in Rocky Wirtz, who has the power he does, basically shouting everyone else down. Sheldon Kennedy, remember, got hired by the NHL. Like, he's part of some of their initiatives. And so, it'll be interesting to see, I guess, as the league maybe takes stock from some of those, stakeholders, if there's any further action taken. But, as of, almost 24 hours after this action happened, the expectation is that he won't step down from his role with the Blackhawks.
So then I wonder if that means that the apology that Rocky put out hours after the dust up is sufficient. I mean, from my vantage point, I don't know if it is, but I wonder if the NHL or other Chicago fans may deem it as such.
Right. Look, there's real world consequences here too. Like, Blackhawks image is tarnished through this. I mean, there's no other way around it. I think we spoke of it at the time, when Kyle Beach did the interview with Rick Westhead, just seeing how powerful it is. It's hard to watch that and then look back on their Stanley Cup winning team in quite the same way. And, the fact that they went through that whole process, it seemed like they were trying to address issues. Obviously they reached a settlement that with John Doe 2 and Kyle Beach in separate lawsuits. There was a path to move forward there, right? The path, of course, is acknowledging openly what has gone wrong, talking openly about what steps you've taken to make sure it's not repeated. And so now we're months on down the road, and it's just like, well, what was the point of that? Like, he thinks we're all just supposed to forget about it. Like, the people that buy tickets haven't forgotten about it. Obviously, the media members like ourselves that cover the game are still talking about it. The commissioner is going to be asked about it. This is it's a huge step back. I think it really is a huge step back for anything that they were trying to do as an organization, to say that this was something in the past and we're going to move forward. I mean, now they've got more work to do there. And I hope that there's some real soul searching, because, at the end of the day, it's not just what you say, right? It's what you do. It's what you feel. And it's pretty clear how Rocky Wirtz views that entire sort of segment of his team's history, which he was a part of, how that incident went down. I mean, I didn't see a lot of remorse in that answer, if you know what I'm saying. I didn't see a lot of soul searching that had been done. And so, it's a difficult thing for the league to handle, I think, in some ways. But that being said, remember, the league put out a sort of a code of conduct type of memo earlier the year. I think it was late October. And to paraphrase a long memo, it said basically, you got to keep your own houses in order. Like every organization is responsible for what's happening behind closed doors at that organization. Like, the league can't possibly know everything going on inside 32 teams' front offices and dressing rooms at any given moment. And I read that as putting a lot of onus on teams to take care of these issues, to address them properly. And if they don't, of course, the league can take some action. And so that's kind of where we're at with the Blackhawks right now. I think it's just, is there any further action that's coming from the NHL? Because, as I say, I don't get the sense that Rocky Wirtz, other than his apology, intends to act in any other way.
Yeah. And I don't get the sense that the organization really learned anything from what happened. We were all devastated when we heard Kyle Beach speak to Rick Westhead, and the findings of the Block and Jenner report came out. And obviously, yes, there were people from Chicago who lost their jobs because of their roles of what happened with that team. but that response from Rocky Wirtz just kind of made me. You know what? Steve Dangle had it right. Steve Dangle put out a tweet saying it wasn't about accountability; it was about covering it up, and that just reads to me like Chicago, after everything that went on and all of the pushback and the blowback that they endured as a result of Kyle Beach stepping up and telling his story. They're all about just covering this up and just hoping that people forget about it and go right back to just watching games and acting like nothing happened. But I'm sorry, we're not going to do that. I absolutely refuse on my part in my small role in the hockey world. And I know you don't, I know you feel the same way too. And other hockey members as well will not let this be forgotten. And I don't know what world Rocky Wirtz thinks he's living in where people are just going to not ask him questions about that. How do you have a town hall and not expect questions to be asked about that when this is like one of the first times you've had a media availability since the report came out, since you were fined $2 million?
It's the first time he's taking questions. Like
it's tone deaf.
Yeah, there was prepared statements before, but nothing. You know, the other thing I'd caution you there, though, and it's just a small point of clarification. I think there's a lot of people in that organization that have learned from this or don't believe in this. This is the setback, as he has the most powerful voice, arguably, in the organization. He's the one signing the checks. He's at the top of the food chain. But that doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of people below him that do want to see some changes. That you know, maybe they've even done some things. Like this is an opportunity for him. It's actually a great PR opportunity to speak to some of the things they might have addressed and some of the changes they're contemplating, and to talk about their process and how they've gone on from that. And you know, so. When we're saying the organization broadly, like a lot of people make up an organization. The problem here is it's the person at the top of the organization that hasn't learned, and certainly doesn't seem, just wants to move past it, and we can't talk about it. Blah 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 blah. But you know, I know there are people that work for the team that don't feel that way, and hopefully now their voices can be heard a little bit, like internally. I don't mean that they have to come out and do a press conference, but you know, hopefully, you know, I'm always like looking for the good that can come from the bad, right? But like it was hard to watch that. It's hard to imagine an original 16 that's won 3 Stanley Cups in the last, 12 years, whatever it is, already being this low again. Like, the Blackhawks, they're not on the radar the way they once were. And I think that this is more critical maybe than they believe that they, I think the sport needs a lot more, man. And the business of the sport needs a lot more given to it. And the Blackhawks really should rethink their positioning here.
They should rethink their positioning, and they may need to basically kind of not reboot the franchise, but I still think that in light of everything that is going on, there's no better time to consider just changing the way that they look. And I am talking about the logo here, then if not now, like relatively soon. I still think this is an opportunity for them to show that they are willing to, change for the better. And you do bring up a good point there. I'm sure there are people in the organization who want to change and be better. But when the guy at the top is saying what he's saying, I'm sorry, but he's arguably one of the biggest representatives, not the biggest representative of the organization. It's kind of hard to not distance those two. So it does make it easy to kind of blanket, I guess, the statement that I made over the entire team. But you are right. There are people who want changes to be made, and I'm sure they exist within that organization. It just does not look good. And they're going to have to do a lot of soul searching and a lot of changing in order for them to kind of really take that step and feel as if they've really moved on, not as if what they were trying to do at the town hall that we saw on Wednesday evening. It just doesn't look good, CJ. It really just doesn't look good at all.
It doesn't. And that's where the calls for maybe people wanting to see him step down is that would be a tangible step of action, right? As I say, I don't have any reason to believe that's going to happen, but I can see where that view was out there that was important. Sean McIndoe, who does writing for The Athletic, who's always funny and right on point. Like, I love his tweet where he said, like, he's saying they don't want to talk about 2010, like a week after they hired Marian Hossa and Patrick Sharp to be part of a search for a GM. And, this isn't really being broken down here, but you have to wonder. I mean, look, there's only 32 GM jobs. So obviously someone, you'll find someone who'll take anyone that he or she can get their hands on. But, I just wonder, especially when it comes to maybe some of the top candidates or those that feel that they have a line on another job, how, like, you want to go work for these people right now? I wouldn't. And so anyway, yeah, it's it's brutal, man.
You mentioned PR. I mean, I should double check this for myself. Remember, there was like a vacancy in there for a job in the PR department. I wouldn't surprise me if it was still vacant. I don't know if I would, if I was desperate for a hockey job, I don't know if I'd go work at that organization right now. Nope. I'm sorry, I wouldn't.
Right. But I'm just saying someone will, but I actually think it diminishes their pool. Like there have to be candidates out there that are at least thinking twice, if not outright, just saying, you know what, I don't want to step into that position. And like, look, it should be considered one of the better jobs you could have in hockey because you're with an Original Six franchise, one with a great history. You know, it's in a great city like Chicago. You know, there's a lot to like there, but I just think that there's a stench coming from the organization still.
Absolutely. I would be remiss if I didn't mention a piece of news that dropped on Thursday from your colleague at TSN, Rick Westhead. I will put I guess a trigger warning here for sexual assault because more lawsuits have been put out towards Brad Aldrich, who we all know was the former video coach who was essentially convicted into a sex offender for what he had done to Kyle Beach as a member of the Chicago Blackhawks. A former student of the University of Miami at Ohio is among those in the lawsuit. And he claims he was assaulted by Aldrich in October 2012, and also says that Aldrich used Blackhawks players' names and the Olympic silver medal and the cup ring for grooming purposes. The John Doe 3, as they're being referred to as, tried to report the assault to Miami U police and to police in Oxford, Ohio, but to no avail. Also, another note here, Aldrich says the Blackhawks recommended he work with the University of Miami in Ohio because of work they had done with the You Can Play program set up by Brendan Burke. There's not too much we can really add to that, but I do want to mention that being out there, just kind of wild in the fact that the Chicago Blackhawks are dealing with the fallback of Rocky Wirtz on Wednesday, and then this happens. This is obviously a story that we're going to continue to follow, and we're going to continue to put a light on here. And I wonder if Gary Bettman's also going to be asked about this as well on Friday. I'm
sure he will. You know, the problem is with it being pending litigation, you know, there's probably not a whole lot he can say just because that's still, you know, be worked out in the courts. But, you know, look, and we're at the league's all-star game. I mean, this is meant to be a fun event. It's meant to be a showcase of the best, most talented players. You know, it's really meant to be a light event, quite frankly. It usually is. You know, I've been to a number of all-star games over the years. You know, it's nothing for anyone to take too seriously. Just have a few laughs and take a break during the season. And you know, now all this comes up right again, just as, you know, it's supposed to be a showcase. And I do think that it's going to be showcasing aspects of the sport that the league would prefer we weren't.
Absolutely. But through platforms like this, the platforms that we have, we're going to have to keep the league's feet to the fire on this, because this is just a story that should not go away. I feel there's a lot that still needs to be uncovered. And I can understand why a lot of fans may feel angry, especially a lot of Chicago Blackhawks fans right now feeling angry about the reaction from Rocky Wirtz. I'm with you. A lot of the goodwill that may have been kind of built up over the years, it's all gone. And they're going to have to go through a lot of, at least Rocky Wirtz should be able to go through a lot of soul searching and just kind of, you know, really look at himself and really think about what he said. The last thing I'll say is, you're right. I think it was Danny who I think tried to answer the question from Mark, but then Rocky kind of cut him off. I am still curious about what he would have actually said in that moment. And I imagine even if, and Mark made the point on Twitter, I think that if he said something now, he might get drowned out. But I am genuinely curious as to what he would have said in that moment if he wasn't cut off by Rocky. And I hope that Mark or someone else in Chicago kind of follows up with him and asks that question too, because I do think that Chicago, at the very least, they should still explain what they're going to be doing in light of everything that's happened with the Kyle Beach affair.
Yeah. And look, Danny Wirtz came up to Mark Lazarus after the press conference and said he has a lot to say on that issue and that he will be soon. So, you know, he addressed that right in the moment, essentially. Is close to the moment. He obviously didn't shout over his father on the stage, but he pretty quickly went to Mark and at least delivered that. So, you know, he's the one running the team now, really day to day. And so what he says is also very important coming forward. And I do think this will force that to become public pretty soon.
CJ, this is not an easy turn to do. I know the first topics that we started on the show were very heavy. We do intend on talking about other things around the NHL world. It has been busy over the last few days. You are in Las Vegas. One thing I realized, though, with the topics I did write down, there's a lot. And there's a lot to get to. And I imagine if we go in deep on all of them the way we would, this would turn into like a 90-minute show or a 2-hour show. And we know how certain people at SDPN feel about shows extending long. So I decided
Wild Park could handle that.
Yeah, jeez, are you kidding me? The fact he's got to add this other, he's got Noxie and Cax on the show too. He's got to worry about their time limits. Game Over International is doing their thing for the Olympics too. He's got to watch out for all these time limits. So my way of combating that is to bring back the grab bag. Still not properly decorated. Still just a
like
brown
your Uber
paper
Eats
bag
from last night, or what? Like someone delivering some food in that?
You know what's funny? I don't remember what this bag was for. It was just kind of around, and I just said, "Okay, I need a bag." And this just kind of had to make do. It's Julian here with a message from Athletic Greens. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient and daily nutrition, especially heading into the flu and cold season. Ugh, it's not a fun time. In just one scoop and a cup of water every day, that's it. That's literally it. That's amazing. No need for a million different other pills and supplements and all that extra stuff. Athletic Greens is it. To make it easy, Athletic Greens will give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your very first purchase. All you have to do, visit athleticgreens.com/Johnston. It's CJ's last name. How easy, it doesn't get any easier than that. athleticgreens.com/Johnston to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. It's almost Valentine's Day and love is in the air. Whether it's a third date or a 30-year anniversary, you do not want erectile dysfunction getting in the way of a perfect night. If you've been experiencing ED, then visit getroman.com/Johnston and speak with a U.S. licensed healthcare professional about ED. And if prescribed, you can get $15 off your first month of treatment. With ED treatments, you can have the self-assurance that comes from knowing you've prepared yourself for the moment, when the moment comes. Pick up your phone or laptop and complete a free online visit with a U.S. licensed healthcare professional. Roman offers 5 prescription treatments, including the brand and generic version of the most common ED medications. A U.S. licensed healthcare professional will work with you to find the best treatment plan. If prescription medication is appropriate, it ships to you with free 2-day shipping. To make sure you get your package in time for Valentine's Day, your order needs to be placed by February 9th. So don't waste any time. Start an online visit today. With Roman, you get free ongoing care for erectile dysfunction, all from the comfort and privacy of your home. The whole process is straightforward, convenient, and discreet. It's simple. GetRoman.com/Johnston, and then you can complete an online visit. GetRoman.com/Johnston. But I wrote some topics. I put them in the bag. Just give me your general thoughts on them as I pick them. Here's some noise for everybody. And let's see what's the first topic that comes up here. All right. What do you know about Pat Verbeek, the newest general manager of the Anaheim Ducks? That was announced today, Thursday.
What I know about him is that he spent a long time working with Steve Yzerman. And, that's been a pretty good education. A long time with the Tampa Bay Lightning organization. And, he was part of the front office there, a key part of the front office there that really turned that organization into what it is today. Julian Brisebois got his name on the cup, but Steve Yzerman's handprints were all over that cup in terms of, building the Lightning organization to a position where they could win it. He's more recently went back to Detroit with Yzerman. And, this is what we would call a traditional GM hire. A longtime player who transitioned into a long career in the front office and, did an excellent job from what I've been told on his interview to come out as the winner in Anaheim. And, this is an interesting job, right? Because, it's quite different than say like Kent Hughes in Montreal taking over the 32nd place team in the league. Anaheim's having an unexpectedly strong season. They've kind of, I don't know if they're fully through their rebuild, but they're certainly at the late stages of what we would call the rebuild. The last couple of years have been hard, but they've drafted some good young players, and they're starting to see the fruits of that labor. They got Mason McTavish coming soon. He's over right now in Beijing playing for Team Canada at the Olympics. But there's a pipeline that's been built up, and there's already some on ice success. And so, he's not coming. Usually in these, especially if you're getting hired mid-season, you're usually coming in for the teardown. Quite honestly, like that's typically the circumstances here. Now, remember Bob Murray, his predecessor, stepped aside, acknowledged a drinking issue at the time, and so it's little different circumstances to take that job. And so I think that Pat's experience for so long, I think it's 12 years he worked alongside Yzerman, is going to serve him well. And they were looking at sort of different candidates, I guess, those that haven't maybe we're not at the top of the list. Although they did also interview Jason Botterill, who was a GM in Buffalo and currently the assistant GM in Seattle, as part of this process. So, I think that there's some really intriguing, quick decisions Verbeek's got to make, Julian. He's got 3 pretty notable UFAs in Hampus Lindholm, Josh Manson, and Ricard Raquel. He's got a team that's right at the playoff marker, basically, right, flirting certainly in the playoff race. And he's got to figure out, does he resign those players? Is he trading them for future assets? Because this is a rebuild still. Is he maybe acquiring guys at the deadline? Like he's going to hit the treadmill with it already on, like set to 6 miles an hour or whatever. Like he's jumping on and going into, he's got to get his legs pumping. So it'll be I think it's an interesting hire, and I think it'll be a busy first few months for Verbeek on the job there.
Also, his nickname was the Little Ball of Hate. Do I have that right?
You do have that right. Yeah. I don't know him well personally, but I think that tells you maybe about his personality on the ice back in the day.
Okay. The next one I just pulled up here. We talked about this topic earlier this week, and then people got mad at us at our clickbait title of Austin going to Arizona, which we don't necessarily think is going to happen, but whatever. NHL execs are not happy with Arizona's proposal to play at Arizona State University. What have you heard about it from others in the league?
I think it's the players themselves that should be most upset, and not because the rink is going to be poor or anything, but players and owners share in hockey-related revenue. It's called money that's made off of hockey games, like selling tickets and popcorn and beer and parking spots and everything that goes around it. And what the Coyotes aren't going to be able to do at Arizona State University is sell as many of those things because it doesn't have the inventory. It is only 5,000 seats. I believe there's 16 boxes, whereas some arenas have between like 40 and 80 boxes, for companies and hosting there. And those are sort of premium opportunities to make money as an organization. And so, what it's going to do, I understand why they're doing it from the Coyotes perspective. Like the plan they have for Tempe, if they can get it through, is outstanding. I've actually seen some of what's proposed there in terms of, a whole area around the arena that would be developed with restaurants and shops and, condos and things like where people would want to live. Like it's really pretty impressive. It's Tempe is close to downtown Phoenix. It's in a better location than where they've been playing since 2003. I think it would be a lifeline if they could get that arena built, and it's an if still at this point. I think we could probably once and for all end the discussion of their future there, or at least for a good amount of time, because I do think it would give them a lot of chances to make money. But anyway, the short term is not that short. It's 3 to 4 years they're looking at playing at Arizona State University. And so, yeah, there's other people sort of snickering about the idea. It's 10,000 seats less than you have in Winnipeg, which is the smallest arena currently right now. And so it's significant. Like that is going to be lost revenue. There's no way around it. Now, there's not a lot of other opportunities or places for them to play. As you'd imagine in most cities, there's not like multiple 20,000 seat venues in too many cities. I mean, sure, in New York or something, you find that, but it's not easy to move a home within the same city if you're not building it. And so, the Coyotes are in a spot, and I think it's the players that should probably be most upset because they actually, if you look at the CBA, they don't really have, there's not much recourse the union can have. I mean, the players that think about this stuff can complain, and I'm sure it'll be raised privately as an issue, but there's not publicly all that much they can do. And so less money into the league is less money on the paychecks of the guys who play the game.
That is true. You mentioned the Winnipeg Jets. This is just more of a mental note for myself. Between the next episode that we do or the one after, we got to find time to talk about the Jets because it feels as if they've been in free fall mode for the last little while. It's a bit wild.
Yeah. And, Mark Scheifele, I see he's taking a lot of heat in that market. And struggling with his play right now. And so you're right. Let's dig in there maybe on Monday.
Absolutely. All right, this next one. You mentioned Kent Hughes earlier. Kent Hughes recently discussed his vision for the Montreal Canadiens with a few outlets. I know La Presse has talked to him, and The Athletic has talked to him as well. Of some of the players who have been rumored to be on their way out, guys like Jeff Petrie or Ben Sherratt, who do you actually see leaving ahead of the trade deadline?
Sherratt, 100%. There's significant interest in him already in the marketplace. I think that you'll see the Canadiens get something like the David Savard return for him, which I believe was a first and a fourth round pick, I want to say. But anyway, it was more than a first, was what Columbus got from Tampa. As part of that deal, he only makes $3.5 million on the cap, which is less than some of the other defensemen out there. The Canadiens are willing to eat 50% of the contract. So that makes him, for contenders that are having cap gymnastics to perform to bring in anyone, I think that's a big positive for them. Petrie's an interesting case. Like at this point, I don't get the sense he's asked for a trade, but I do think he's open to a trade. And, he's got a couple years left on his deal, a little over $6 million. So it's a difficult contract in the sense that his play this year has really been off. Like he was a borderline Norris candidate last year, honestly. And this year, nothing's working. And some scouts I've spoken to, actually think it's just kind of the situation has run its course in Montreal, that some of it is just everything going on with the team. I mean, I've said this to you, I think, before, but like the Canadiens obviously made some bad personnel moves in the summer, but a lot's gone wrong to put them in this situation too, to be this far down the standings, to have this few wins. And that takes a toll on a veteran player, right? Like Jeff Petrie he knows he's on the back nine in terms of how many years he's got left to play. He played in a Stanley Cup final in June and July, and all of a sudden now he's on a last place team. And so, I do think that whoever gets him will get a good player, even though the results haven't been there for him this season. And I do expect him to be moved as well by the deadline. It's a trickier trade because you're talking about multiple years on the contract. I think the Sherratt deal is pretty straightforward. I mean, essentially the Canadiens are just holding an auction for him. Like just hold on him and wait and see what, there's a number of contending teams are interested in trading for him and just see where the price ends up. There might be a bit more nuance to a Petrie trade that has to go on, but I think both of those guys are prime candidates to be moved by the 21st of March. And, some of the other decisions, because there are other veteran players, I could see those coming a little later on, but those are the two most likely to be moved in my eyes now.
Okay. March 21st is the trade deadline. March 24th is when Canada, I believe, in the World Cup qualifying match against Costa Rica can clinch their spot in the 2022 World Cup. I believe that's in the same week, so that could be a pretty substantial week for sports fans. Let's get to this next one here. Oh, okay. Have you decided what prop bets we're going to put together so you can bet on behalf of us both? I think we kind of joked about that on the last podcast.
I know, and I didn't deliver. I threw it out there on the pod, and I haven't gone down to the sports book and gotten the.
You have time. You have time.
Right, but I'm saying I haven't committed right now to answer it on this question, what we're going to go. What are you feeling?
Here's something about that question. I anticipated you might have been a little busy, so I thought of a few at least. I think we should put down a bet that the Canadiens are going to win at least 2 consecutive games between now and the end of the season. It has not happened yet, but I think it's going to happen.
Now, that won't be a prop bet, though. I'd have to find a casino willing to take that.
Okay, fine. What about
like a cup champion or something, something a little more boring? Who do you think? Would you pick a Florida or a Carolina? Florida's at the top of the standings. Those are teams we haven't seen, get to that level before.
Put my money on Colorado then. Put it on Colorado. That's my bet. I make Colorado's winning it. Put the money in. Put the money in. Put it in. I don't know how much money it costs. I don't bet, as you know. Just do that.
All right. They'll be the favorite, I would guess, but let's do that. It's okay to bet the favorite as long as you bet the winner. At
the very least. Hey, does this sound familiar? You got one device that lets you catch the game live, another one that lets you stream your favorite shows, and you're watching sports highlights on your phone. I know I like to do that. And you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. I want to tell you about a simple way that gets you all the entertainment that you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. No more juggling remotes. You don't need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. Get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package, but just go to directtv.com. We're still in the middle of winter. Football and basketball and hockey very much in full swing. And for many of us, there's no better way to enjoy the games than by having some skin in the game. That is why BetMGM remains the exclusive betting partner of The Athletic. And as a fan of The Athletic, you can bet $10 to win $150 plus a free 3-month subscription or extension of your subscription to The Athletic when you bet with BetMGM using our promo code. Sign up at betmgm.com and use the promo code TheAthleticPod at checkout to take advantage of this special offer from the king of sportsbooks. That's bet $10 to win $150 plus 3 months free from The Athletic at betmgm.com. And you have to use the promo code TheAthleticPod at checkout. The Athletic Pod, all in one word. New customer offer. Visit betmgm.com for terms and conditions. Okay, well, I'm going to pick another one here as I think whether or not picking Colorado to bet is actually a good idea. Is that too boring? Should I have picked Florida instead?
I might call an audible when I get to the booth.
Yeah.
I want to see what the odds are because I haven't got the sheet. I'll hit you up in the group text. We'll share it on Monday. I'll bring the ticket out. We'll have another prop.
Yeah, because again, I don't bet, so like I would be a very boring bet person, and like obviously I don't want to like lose. I'm all about taking high percentage shots.
Right. I want to have something fun though, like when it comes to the playoffs, and if we got a team and they're like playing, like it's just something to root for,
Oh well, I guess betting for the Leafs to win in round 1 is too predictable.
Maybe we bet the Leafs to win the cup. Is that going to have a reverse jinx? Is that like the juggernaut or
no? Do you want that on yourself?
No, I don't.
I don't think you want that at all, my brother. No. Here's this next one. I
might play someone fun though, like Carolina. I like sort of like the bit of an underdog kind of team, right? They were my Buffalo Bills of the NHL when we got that question and asked CJ that recently. So.
That's true, but we all know what happened to the Buffalo Bills this year in the playoffs. So let's be mindful of that too. Maybe I don't know if they lose like 7-6 in game 7 or something, and maybe they don't touch the puck in overtime. Here's this next one. Pretty short and sweet. What's Vegas like?
It's not very warm right now. That was a surprise. It was like 5 degrees Celsius, like in the 30s Fahrenheit. It's a fun place. Like, this is the weird thing for me. Like, I've probably been here, no exaggeration, 25 to 30 times. But I've only ever once been here for just for fun, for pleasure, for a trip. I was with my friends, like, when I was 20, like a long time ago. And so I come here quite often, but it's to cover a Golden Knights game or to go to the NHL awards. We had an expansion draft here I was down for. I covered the Stanley Cup final here when Washington played. I've been a regular visitor, but I'm always working. So I never get to see the full Vegas because, like, I'm not like, first of all, I'm not going to like nightclubs and stuff anyway. And often, I'm just, I'm up here in my room recording this. I'm not kind of going all in on the Vegas, but it's a very disorienting place to be when you're working because it's really easy to just like walk downstairs into the lobby and see the casino and just like, you're just like looking at lights and people and you're seeing crazy stuff going on. And like, it can be hard. It can be hard to focus, I guess, on the work part. So I'm trying to stay focused. I didn't get into any trouble in my first night here. So
thank God.
Yeah, my voice is intact. Everything's fine.
Thank God. Because honestly, like I was like putting out ideas for a CJ show, and I didn't really hear that much for you. I started to get worried about you a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I was good. I've been good so far, but it's still early, man. Like I got a couple more nights here, and I haven't seen any of my media pals or anything. So.
Okay, I think I've emptied out the grab bag. I have one final question for you. What do you think about the World Juniors most likely, according to IIHF President Luc Tardif, being in August?
I like that the players are getting a chance to do that. Honestly, it's for a lot of them, it's a one and done event because it's an under 20 tournament and they're only good enough to make it when they're 19 or about to turn 20. So I like that they were getting another shot at it. I think there's going to be some complications there. I mean, that's pretty close to when some of the top prospects will be reporting to NHL teams for training camp. So I don't know if all the top players will want to go, will be allowed to go. Like, I'm not sure how the teams will view that. So logistically, it comes with challenges, but I think all those challenges, even if you end up with maybe not a true, maybe if it's a bit more of a watered down event, I say so be it, because, you know, those guys all went to, you know, Red Deer and Edmonton, and they were there, and they played exhibition games and played a game or two, depending on the team. And like, they had that kind of stolen from them. And I still think people will rally behind it. I'll watch a good sporting event any time of year, any time of day. So I think it'll still get a fair amount of hype. Won't be the same as the sort of the Christmas holiday season, just because usually no one's working and, you know, what else are you doing? The weather's crap. So you just watch World Juniors all day. But, you know, I think it's great for the kids that you're going to get a chance to play.
At the very least. I'm also like, August is like the dead month for like hockey stuff. Like I wonder, like, is that going to work to their advantage? Like, oh, like nothing normally happens in August. Like we've already gone through the big hoopla free agency. The draft is done. Like, I wonder if it's going to work to their advantage to actually have it in a month where you're going to be in the middle of the MLB season. A lot of people are already going on vacation anyway. How much
the
else?
world's upside down though, man. Like we had a Stanley Cup handed out in September 2020, right? And the bubble opened in August. And, you know, I know that we're getting back to something like normalcy, but I think we've become used to it, right? Like the golf majors are all played at weird times. And, you know, however you used to sort of, because I'm such a sports fan, like even in addition to my job, like I just watch a lot of sports when I have time. Like it's almost like it was like my body clock was just knowing like, oh, it's Wimbledon now or whatever. And everything got jumbled around. So yeah, it's going to feel a little bit strange, but I think having gone through what we've seen in the last 2 years, it won't be quite as jarring as it would have been if you told me this, you know, in February of 2020.
That's a very fair point. That's going to do it for the grab bag. And now it is time for Stick Taps. It is the segment we do every Thursday where we show someone in the hockey world a little bit of love. CJ, do you want to start or should I start?
Yeah, I'll start with Mark Lazarus. You know, Mark's a guy I know professionally pretty well over the years. We've both been covering the NHL a while. And, you know, I got to say, I have no illusions about the job we do. Like, I understand we cover the toy department is the old nickname, right? Like, I understand that it's not all serious. And I thought he handled a serious topic well. I thought he handled the pushback from Rocky Wirtz well. He stood in there. He asked followed-up questions. Didn't get too emotional despite the emotion kind of that moment. And it's easy to pick on reporters and some of it's earned, frankly. Like, honestly, I get it from fans and stuff, but like, I think he deserves props for, you know, for doing his job and doing it well and being a professional and handling that as well as you could. So great job, Mark. Absolutely.
Great job to you, Mark. I'll also extend the stick tap over to Phil Thompson as well. And for Rick Westhead for his continuing reporting on Brad Aldrich and Kyle Beach and the Chicago Blackhawks. My stick tap, and I'll bring up the mini stick for this one, goes to Danielle Goyette, a Hockey Hall of Famer in the Toronto Maple Leafs organization, who had to step up when one of the Newfoundland Growlers of ECHL, affiliated with the Toronto Maple Leafs, one of their coaches, I believe, in COVID-19 protocol. So that means Goyette had to step in as an assistant coach, and it looks as if she'll be doing that through to the end of the weekend for a select few games with the organization. And I believe that makes her the first female coaching staff member, reading off the Athletic article on this, the first female coaching staff member to take the bench for an ECHL game. This is according to the Growlers, but hockey history being made on account of a Hockey Hall of Famer stepping in for another coach in COVID protocol. So congratulations to Danielle for this opportunity. And this sounds pretty exciting. So a stick tap to a Hockey Hall of Famer, Canadian international legend, Danielle Goyette.
And look, man, there's a great Ernest Hemingway quote. I think it's from The Sun Also Rises. Gradually, then suddenly. Gradually, then suddenly. I feel like this is going to not be something we're going to have to stick tap because it's going to become so much more normal. Remember Emily Castonguay, Rachel Dory, hired in Vancouver. We're seeing female officials at the American Hockey League level. I think it's only a matter of time for them. They're in the NHL. And, doors are being opened and glass ceilings are being smashed.
Absolutely. And that's going to do it for the Thursday edition of the CJ Show. We will be back on Monday. Get your questions in now, whether on Twitter with the hashtag AskCJ or in our Discord. You can join at sdpn.ca and join the Discord link from there. Get your questions in that we will try to get to on Ask CJ on Monday. Subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts if you haven't already subscribed, and also check out some of the other great shows we have at SDPN. Agent Provocateur has a brand new episode. Jonathan Huberdeau is the special guest with Adam Wilde and Alan Walsh. Noxian Cax also has a brand new podcast as well. And on Friday, of course, the Steve Dangle podcast will have a brand new episode as well. And I believe they're doing a live stream for some of the All-Star Game festivities on Friday evening. So I think it's going to be the SDP boys just hanging out on Twitch. So watch that. I'll try to hop in on the Twitch and create like a Twitch account or something. That'd be fun to do. I don't know. Do you have Twitch?
No.
No. Yeah. I mean, and also you're going to be at those games. So like, why would you watch?
I'm interested in it though. Like I love seeing the
Yeah.
Alphonso Davies Twitch. Like I've been loving him watching his team. Like it's cool, but I haven't explored that or started one of those.
That's okay. Well, we're still waiting for you to join the fracas on Discord.
Yeah, I've been silent on there.
That's okay. I figured you got like scared off or something, because like those people could wild out a little bit, start talking about pickles and stuff.
I'm still trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do in the Discord room. That's the
dude. Honestly, all you have to do is just like be there, be like, hey, and then everyone's just gonna lose their mind. Like you're popping enough that like if you just show up, people are just gonna be like, oh my god, or like hop in one of like the voice chats and just be like, hey guys, what's everyone doing? And then everyone just like loses their shit. It's crazy. Trust
you know
me.
what? I'm in a couple hours time. I'm about to do my first Twitter Spaces.
Ooh, okay.
Taking questions through my North Star Bets Toronto Star affiliation. We're trying this thing out, so I think there's gonna be questions in there. I love that. I actually love this stuff. Like it connects you to the audience better, and it gives it's very useful. It's hard to know. It's hard to know where to put your energy or what the winners are, what's going to last. You
just have to try things out, see how people respond, and then kind of go from there. But yeah, Twitter Spaces. We should have plugged that from jump. But yeah, man, I'll be listening to that Twitter Space if this podcast hasn't already come out after the Twitter Space. That being said, of course, big shout out to North Star Bets, and also be on the lookout for whenever CJ has the Inside the NHL column, which can be read at the Toronto Star, and subscribe to The Athletic because it's just a cool thing to do. For CJ, I'm Julian saying so long and peace. Enjoy Las Vegas this weekend and enjoy the NHL All-Star Game.
The Chris Johnston Show. Inside the game, twice a week. Follow Chris on Twitter @ReporterChris. And follow Julian McKenzie @JK McKenzie.